Hi, this is the actual getting started section from the textbook that we're going to be using this year. This is day 3 of the review, and we're just going to, I'm sure in class, I will or I would have, depending on when you watch this video, given you a little tour of the textbook so you kind of know the layout of it, and so we'll just go through a few examples here just to get you all organized for the work that will be done in class tomorrow. Okay, so if we're given g of x equals 2x squared minus 5x, we want to find g of negative 3. So, and then of course afterwards we're going to find g of a minus 1. So what will you do with that negative 3 in terms of g of negative 3? Okay, so go ahead and do that please, and then check back to see what the result will be. Okay, so we've got 2 negative 3 squared minus 5 negative 3. Make sure you always put, when you substitute in the value, make sure you put it in brackets, especially because if there's a negative, but in general, anytime you substitute, the first line should always have brackets, have the value in brackets. Okay, what will be the next line, please? Okay, and we've got that. And I'll just work that out. Next line. And then finish that off, please. Great. Okay, now we'll go on to g of a minus 1. Okay, work that out, please. Okay, so now ask yourself and be very clear on what that actually means. A minus 1 all squared. What do you do when you actually have a square? Okay, a lot of people make a little mistake there and just square the a and square the negative 1 and leave it like that. However, be very cautious of that. You know, sometimes shortcuts are not the best thing in the world, especially if you have little doubts. So make sure you work through that completely so you get the accurate results. Okay, so work that out, please. Okay, so I'll just write that out like that first, so that you realize a minus 1 all squared is a minus 1 times a minus 1 and not a squared plus 1. Okay, work out that next line, please. Okay, so that's how that would, that a minus 1 all squared actually is a squared minus 2a plus 1. Okay, what will you do next? Okay, so we'll collect like terms, and what's the next step? Okay, so we will combine like terms then. Okay, and that is g of a minus 1 simplified. Okay, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask me in class tomorrow. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of these functions. Remember what this looks like. F of x is the square root function. And we want to see what transformations, or we want to, first of all, graph the transform function and the original function, and then state the transformations that were used, that were applied to this parent function. Okay? And so what you're going to need is some graph paper, obviously. So graph the function root x. If you don't remember what that is, I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere on the internet or in old notes or textbooks that you might have from past years. And then review what these transformations will do to that function. Okay, so what we'll do actually first is let's state the transformations that would be applied to this parent function to get this function. Okay, and for transformations I always state, even though there are different ways of doing it, I just state, let's just go left to right and work them out that way. Okay, so first thing we see is a negative. What does that negative do? Okay, so that's a reflection in the x-axis. Then, after the negative, we got the 1/2. What does that do? Okay, so that's a vertical compression by 1/2. Meaning that, of course, it gets compressed to half its size vertically. And then, so we got the negative, we got the 1/2 out front, then we've got this 3 inside, so that 3 is inside with the function. So what does that 3 do? Okay, so that is going to be a horizontal compression by 1/3. Okay. We'll take a look at the graphs in a second. Let's move on to this next one. Take a look at this function here. F of x is 1/x. What does 1/x look like? What's that parent function look like? Okay, and then we take a look at the resulting function, 1/x minus 2 plus 1. Okay, again, just go left to right. So if we start it here, we see there's no negative, there's no other coefficient out front. We go right into the function. And so because it's inside, this negative 2 is inside with the function itself. Okay, that's a horizontal translation. Sometimes people say shift, horizontal shift or horizontal translation. And that's to the right 2 units. And then, so we've done that, and then we get to this plus 1, that's outside the function, and what does that do? That's a vertical translation up 1 unit. Okay, so now let's take a look at the two functions that we have there. So here is the top function is the square root function, so it starts at 0, 0 and it just continues in that form. So for every x value we take the square root of it to get the y value. So when x is 1, the square root of 1 is 1. When x is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. And when x is 9, the square root of 9 is 3, etc. Okay, and then over here, x is 16, the square root of 16 is 4. Okay, so that's the square root function.